Alright, now that I have explained the basics of how this Spider-Man / Venom scarf works, I'm gonna show you a couple of tips I have learned in the process of making this piece that have been helpful to make it turn out the way I want. Not gonna go into details of how to actually double knit. That's why in the previous video I gave you links where I learned how to double knit, just to get you started. So tip number 1 is that at the beginning of every row you want to twist your yarn. When I was reading comments on the DeviantArt page for the girl who created this, that was one of the things she said she did. There are lots of different ways that you can make a clean finished edge for a double knit piece. The tutorial videos I watched had lots of different ones, but most of them involved knitting the 2 colors, or in this case 3 colors, what have you, but it involved knitting the colors back together, which makes kind of a twisted look. And for this particular scarf, the row or the column along the edge of the piece is part of the webbing, so I can't get those colors mixed up. I really do just want them to be back to back with nothing else special about it. So I looked up, okay, well, twisting yarn, how do you do that? I found it on an intarsia tutorial, which I still don't get intarsia. But that's beside the point. It taught me what I needed to for this. So all you're doing when you're twisting your yarn, I'm starting this row. My first stitch needs to be black, so I'm going to knit with black, but I'm going to make sure that my other 2 colors are caught in that yarn. So they're crisscrossed. So let me show you how that works. Get that ready to go. Take my other needle. Stay there, you. So I go in and I knit my first stitch, and when that comes off, you've got your other 2 colors caught in the middle of it there, so they're not going anywhere. It's going to hold the 2 sides together, rather than, I imagine if you didn't do this you would have 2 separate sides, but then they would just come up, well, they wouldn't come apart because I'm using some of the same colors in both sides. But I think that's how people can end up knitting like 2 socks at the same time on one needle, because you would double knit but you wouldn't connect the 2 in any way. So when you get them off the needle, they would just come apart. I don't know, I read about it on Wikipedia. So that's tip number 1, is twist your yarn. Then once you've got that set for your foundation, then you can just carry on as normal. I think I'll go ahead and knit an entire row here because that'll give me the chance to explain all 3 things I need to. Alright, so my next stitch on my back side is white, so I will purl that stitch. Boop. Come on. It's gonna go out of the frame because I don't have a tripod, but there we go. Got my white. There we go. Cool. Okay, tip number 2 is whenever you're changing what color you're using, pardon my congestion, whenever you're changing what color you're using, bring that color, here we go, bring that color underneath the other 2 colors. I found that if I didn't do that, then along the front of my piece I would get weird, like, wrong colors that I didn't want, just like peeking through across a stitch or something like that. I'm not sure why. I didn't try to figure it out too hard. I just figured out what worked and went with that. So, like, I've got my 3 colors going on here, and my next stitch on my front side needs to be red. So rather than just grab my red and go, I'm going to make sure that it comes around from underneath the black when I knit with it. So now, here we go. Get those out of my way. So you do a lot of adjusting of your yarn. It's not particularly quick, like other knitting might be. So we go in there, knit the red, come on, and voila! And then our black, same on the back side here. Right now I've got white, so I'm going to make sure that the black comes around there, and it's going to be coming out from the bottom, like the very behind of all the other colors. So there's my black, and boop, come on, there we go, pearl with my black, and there it is. So, if I had video editing software, I'd be able to fast forward through this next section, but I don't. So I'll just knit this as fast as I can. Let's see if I can back up a little so you can actually watch me do it. Here we go. Knit red. Oh, come on. Pearl black. Knit red. Pearl black. Guess you can't see because my camera's at a bad angle. How can I adjust this? Let me see here. Maybe we'll make this 3-part instead, and I'll do tip 3 when I can figure out a better way to show you. Or you know, I'll just knit to the end of the row, and then I'll show you tip number 3. I think that'll make life easier. Okay, we'll be back in a minute.